think the story that we're kind of currently fed of being these egos, these kinds of these identities riding around in this kind of meat suit in a universe that's fundamentally indifferent to us. I think more and more, I think that comes from a certain kind of a belief one might hold, but it's not borne out by science. I think we'd probably be in agreement that the scientific picture of the world, is not one in which there is something that we could even call a self that exists inside this this body, but instead that the conception of self is a psychological process that is very flexible, right? We tend to kind of identify with ourselves, but then you write about kind of cultures where someone wouldn't say that even if they're physically healthy, they wouldn't say they're healthy if their sister was unwell, because their conception of self includes the community. And you make this great analogy to saying, it's like saying, I'm healthy, but my liver has cancer, but I'm healthy, and I think that's a powerful way of understanding how flexible the sense of self can be. And in spiritual states, especially well attested to in kind of Buddhism and ancient Hinduism, you can feel yourself to identify with all of existence, right? With the kind of totality of everything. And so I think this is, you in your work, there's a lot of kind of reference to this kind of spirituality. Taoism as well, I think, is something that seems to resonate with both of us, this idea that the world is a fundamental whole where kind of the spiritual aspects of reality are immanent in all of nature, rather than this kind of split between the kind of lowly material world and an elevated divine world.
Yeah, that's right. You raised that analogy that I had made about, well, yeah, my liver is sick, but I'm fine. That's just my liver. And I use that to point out, if our sense of self, as you were saying, if it includes something beyond the what modernity calls the self, which is the skin-encapsulated ego, or the economic man making rational, self-interested choices, or the biological phenotype maximizing reproductive self-interest, et cetera, et cetera. That's the modern self. But when we expand it beyond that to include, say, the planet, or to include the society that you're in, to include all people on Earth, then you cannot be healthy. You understand that you cannot be healthy if the Amazon is burning. You cannot be healthy if there are people living in poverty and misery, which is an understanding that is arising strongly now in the form of the climate, anti-climate change movement, Extinction Rebellion, and so forth. Like, it's informed by a basic understanding that our well-being is inseparable from the well-being of the world. I think that our understanding of that principle is still very rudimentary, because it's not so simple as, if we kill the Amazon, if we destroy nature, then we're going to die. What it really means is that if we do those things, something dies within ourselves. It doesn't mean that, this is the concept of interbeing, as it's called in Buddhism. It doesn't mean that if there are people languishing in abject poverty in Nairobi or Lagos or Bangladesh, that you're going to be poor someday too. It means you're already poor in some way. An unequal society, even in an unequal society, even the wealthy cannot really be wealthy, because their position requires constant vigilance to prevent the poor from getting their stuff. Like, you can't, real wealth is feeling at home in the world. Real wealth is feeling of belonging. Real wealth is the absolute freedom to be generous without concern, without worry. But if you're seeing poor people around, or you're conscious of your privilege in respect to the poor people, then you can never actually fully be at ease, because if you're generous and you give it all away, you're going to be one of the poor peoples. So that's the sense, that's how interbeing operates. That's how this larger sense of self operates. It's not, uh-oh, I better be nice to nature, otherwise bad things will happen to me. It's that what is happening to nature is happening to me. What's happening to other people is happening to me. I cannot be whole as long as this is happening. Therefore, the improvement of my well-being requires the improvement of the world. And what I give to the world, I am also giving to myself. It's not even so much that it comes back to me. It's that even through the act of giving, it already enriches me. And this is hard to reconcile with our lived experience in a market economy where if you give it all away, if you let yourself get taken advantage of, like you're gonna, nothing good comes of that. If you're in trust, when you get the email saying that, the widow of a Nigerian prince wants to send you $5 million, and you trust that, like it's not going to end well. So this is not just a figment of our philosophical imagination that we live in a world of separation. We have built systems around that story of separation that then make that story true. So the systems actually create the story, and the story creates the systems. And together they're this gestalt. They're like this wholeness that is a being in its own, and a state of being, and a state of society that goes through an evolution, and in our time is reaching its maximum, and in fact has already entered its decrepitude. Like it's not robust anymore. The story of separation, the story of conquest, the bursting through one frontier after another to dominate nature, like that was exciting 2 generations ago. Everyone believed in it. Like you could wholeheartedly believe in it and draw meaning in life from exercising your role in this grand conquest of nature and of other cultures, like that, because you were going to improve them too. That's no longer a source of meaning in modern societies, and we are therefore in a desperate search for meaning right now, which is one reason why fascist political ideologies are becoming popular, and conspiracy theories, and all these other ways that we can at least temporarily derive some meaning and some identity through participation in these offerings, in these stories. But I don't think that we've really come to a true one yet.
Yeah, and both of those you mentioned, fascism and conspiracy theories, they both scratch the itch of control, I guess. Fascism is obviously all about heavy-handed control, and conspiracy theories, I think, are about giving yourself the feeling of narrative control, like believing you know what's going on, even if
Yes.
You can't possibly.